All right, so it looks like everything's working the way that it's supposed to now. Just give everybody a few minutes to kind of pile in over here. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah, we're just waiting to get everybody kind of piled in over here again. Alright, good, that's good. Just turn that down a little bit. Yep, alright. Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened. I had to restart the computer and then kind of play with like some like control panel settings, and it decided to start working. Like it wasn't working, and then it just decided to start picking up again. So I'm not 100% sure what was going on with it, but it seems okay now. So there you go. All right, so we're pretty good to go. So unfortunately, it would seem that I'm flying solo today. Oh, maybe not. Maybe not. Looks like Mystic's online. So we might actually get Mystic up in here after all. No idea. Let's see what he says. So because, you know, audio issues. So we're kind of starting late. All right, so it looks like Mystic is going to be popping on, so we're going to give him a second to come in here. Let me lift the camera up here a little bit, because little low for how I'm sitting. All right, that is just a weird angle. That's like creepy leveling with the camera. All right, I think that works. I'll probably lower myself down a little bit. There we go. All right, yeah, it's not so weird. So Mal, how's it going? How's it going? All right, so now we're just waiting to get Mystic in here, so he's gonna get ready and hop on. So we're not alone. Let's see here. I think I need to add the music into this one. Let's do that really quick. There we go. Get some of the music in the background, or some of the chanting. We all follow our own code of ethics. That's a huge part. I mean, yeah, to a certain degree. We're definitely going to dive into it. I've heard a few songs, DA. Wow, squeaky voice. Holy shit. I've heard a few songs. I'm not sure how I feel about the new tracks. I mean, it takes me a couple times listening to them to kind of, I don't know, kind of like vibe with it. Like the first track that he dropped, when I first heard it, I didn't like it. And then after listening to it a couple of times, it's like, all right, yeah, that's all right. It's pretty good. So, you know, it's just, I think his singing style is just really different. So it's kind of like what's throwing me off. Because he's actually singing, like, it's not as gritty as it usually is. Yeah, I watched the video for it the other day. You know, the breakdowns are fucking crazy. That I will say. Like musically, it's like sonically, it's a lot heavier than his other shit. Like significantly. Let me get Mystic in here, guys. 1 second. Oh, you guys can see me. In a second, it should just be him. There we go. All right, rock on. Uh-huh. Okay. No, it's all good. It's all good. I mean, stuff happens, man. Yeah. Yeah. I'm still using the 11. That's my main. So for some reason, why is my video showing up on you? OBS disconnected. Now it's reconnecting. Like, I don't know what's going on. Go like this. There we go. All right, there. I'm no longer in your video. Guys, are we back? Sorry about that. Missy, can you say something? Make sure your audio's coming through. Oh, see. Yeah, and your audio's not coming through either. That's wonderful. I mean, there's a Windows update, so I'm assuming that that's what screwed everything up. Is Windows doesn't know how to leave shit alone. You say something? And it's still not fucking working. I know what the problem is. Because Discord does the same shit where it doesn't know how to leave shit alone. And will change your settings. Yep, there it is. It linked you to system. All right, now you should be connected to the right output. One more time. Say something.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, there we go. There you go. Now your audio's coming through.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. No, it is so like beyond just fucking irritating when shit doesn't work.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Or I know. I mean, I know.
Yeah. So if anyone in here has ever tried to go live, Maeve, I know you have. You'll get everything set up and everything perfect exactly how you want it. And then Windows will do an update and then just throw everything out of whack and be like, hey, have fun. And you don't ever realize it's messed up until the next time you try to go live.
Yep.
All right, so before we get into the tarot read, you got a tarot deck for us, right?
Oh, I am gonna have to run and grab a deck,
All right, go ahead and
or I
go.
can just tell Rook to go grab any random deck.
Hey,
I think
Rook,
he's cooking.
Rook, bring your deck.
Oh God, there's such a delay. Let me go look.
Yep.
All right, I'm gonna
Uh,
grab one from in here. What should I do? Which one, you guys? We've got lots of decks here. Garbage
um,
Pail Kid.
something fun because it's been a frustrating evening.
Okay, then that's this one. Oops, can you pick that one up for me that I dropped? Thank you. We're not doing the last unicorn. I'm doing this one. No, shut up. All right, guys, we have a deck.
All right, so just so you're aware, so what the topic is for when we're done with this. So we're doing ethics and morality, LHP versus the golden rule.
Okay.
So, and everybody seems pretty excited about the topic. So, already getting opinions in the chat.
You know what they say about opinions.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has one, and
Yeah.
they are to be respected and considered and discussed. I know that is not what they say.
Yeah, no, that's definitely not what they say, but you know, it's all good.
All right.
So what do you got for us? What did you bring?
I decided on one we've done relatively. Whoop, shit, knocked your light over. One that we've done relatively recently, but not too recently.
Garbage Pail Kids. Oh, I do vaguely remember using that one maybe almost like a year ago.
Yeah, it's been a while, but I like the Garbage Pail Kids because not only does it bring me back to, when I was a kid and stuff. Gotta love the Garbage Pail Kids,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah.
it's just a fun deck. Um, I don't know how much consideration they actually put in the deck to find out where the actual Garbage Pail Kids fit, like to make sure that they fit within the tarot. So I basically read these like I would read a blank deck of cards if I was reading tarot
Mm-hmm.
from, just the five of spades or clubs or diamonds or hearts.
Okay.
Just because it's a generic tool, but for me, but they're nice cards. I mean, I know we don't really do a whole review, but I don't like the borders. Everybody knows that, but they're done really well. And the card stock itself is really good. Like this is probably one of the best made decks,
Really?
sturdiest decks that I have. Yeah, except my waterproof ones, which they're super sturdy because they're literally polycarbonate plastic. So we're gonna do a read
Alrighty.
for what's been going on in not what the last week, but what's going to be heading up into the next week. And last week was a really good read of really working with each other and working together
Mm-hmm.
with people and finding growth and finding partnership and finding things that can move us forward, which was really cool. But really, it was about using people around us, not like negatively, but
Right.
using people to kind of help us grow ourselves and do things with ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
this week we're getting a different message, and these have been used. Oh God, we have all three major arcanas. So the energy is very different this time. We have our first card is Judgment. So we have an opportunity among ourselves, or among our world, our environment of judgment, and it's not giving me fluffy feelings, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
It's taking a real look at what's going on and being honest about it and really coming up with, this is truly what this is and where I'm at with this thing. And it needs to be dealt with. And judgment for me is really good at not just saying you're judged or being judgmental. It's not what judgment is. Judgment is recognizing that a decision has to be made and it's going to be made. And they're not always fun to make, but the results are going to be what they are and they have to be made. And so if you have caused something or if something is not going exactly right in your life and you feel, woe is me, it's not about that. This is about
Hmm.
Taking whatever comes, taking the judgment, say, yep, that's judgment. That's what happened, and now I need to see what went on there and make a change in it. Um, so judgment is really telling us to. I hate the word judgment. I really do. It's a trigger word, but it's important. It's discernment, right? The judgment
Right.
is when the thing gets decided, and that's important. Our second card is temperance. One of my favorites, other than the magician in the tarot deck, is temperance. And temperance is this active malleability of balance. It's not about making things 50-50. It's about taking things and utilizing tools to create new things. It's alchemy. And it's balancing the equation of alchemy, which isn't 50-50, right? It's 100-100.
Right.
Everything on the left side equals everything on the right side. So this isn't about that kind of a balance for me. This is about using the energy, and this is our active time frame, using our energy around us and making things with it and turning it into something better or more usable or more effective, right? An iron block, and I don't know how to make a sword, but whatever they use to make a sword, right? They take the metal, they heat it, they shape it, they form it, they quench it, they cool it, they do all these things to make it stronger, and then they sharpen it to make it better. That's all part of temperance. That's tempering
Right.
the steel or the iron into something new. So we're looking at so far making sure that we're aware that there's judgment around us, and we're going to have to equal those scales, and that
Hmm.
we have our this temperance around us, that there's this active alchemy and balance and change in our lives.
Hmm.
And then the last one, this is where this is not going to be the fun, this isn't the fun happy read. This is the Hanged Man, and the Hanged Man for me, especially after we talk about these two activity cards, this Judgment and this Temperance. The Hanged Man means you have to do things from a new perspective, or you will not move forward. So this week is a transformative week. This is a week where we can use energy and move into something new and move something forward, but we have to end on a new perspective that says, well, wait a minute, maybe I didn't have the right view before and now I do. Maybe
Hmm.
there's something to this. Maybe now that I've listened and I paid attention and I've grown and I have a new perspective, things turn out really well when we do that. If we fight this new perspective, things aren't going to turn out well. So I'm reading this week. The energy is very solitary. This is not about a lot of people in your realm. This is about us, our individual selves, and looking at how we're paying making sure that you know, the judgment is going to be accurate, whatever it is. We may not like it, we may not agree with it, but it is going to be the judgment, and we have to deal with that. And so we're going to have to use our magic and our hands and our alchemy to get to this new perspective so that we can figure out what the next step is going to be.
Yeah.
So that's the read for this week
Well, I think that
from
that's
the
going to be an
Garbage Pail Kids.
interesting. I think that's going to be an interesting read to kind of add on to. So one thing I'm adding to Satan and Coffee on Sundays is I'm going to be adding a shadow read at the beginning of the mass to kind of in conjunction with your reading, right? So the idea is the energy that you lay out. My idea is to take the dark mirror and then kind of use kind of like the base that you build on Saturdays and kind of show like how can we, work our own energy to kind of move that,
I
right?
like that.
So
That'll be very interesting to see.
yeah, I think I think it'll be interesting. And Fridays, we're doing relationship reads. Well, Dyra is.
Well, that's nice. That's a good thing because I don't do much on the relationship front. Like
Mm-hmm.
I don't I don't know. It's just not always been my thing.
Right,
Um,
right.
so it's nice to have that additional piece.
Yeah, so I mean, I think each
I like
show
it.
providing like a different vibe of a read, from each one of us. You know,
I like it.
yeah, I definitely think that's good. So getting into the topic, talking about ethics, right? So as I think we've been doing, and I think it's pertinent to do. I think we should define what it is that we're talking about, and in definition this time around, define what ethics is and what ethics isn't. Um, So Mystic, what is your take on that? Like how would you define ethics and something being ethical and or unethical?
Well, I mean, it's to me, it's kind of hard because I see ethics as kind of like our guide, our internal compass, so to speak, of what guides what we do, our behaviors and how we act, and
Mm-hmm.
why we choose what we choose.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think it's interesting because people can fall into, to me, just two spots. Either ethics are ethics, and they are the only thing. Like, it is what it is,
Mm-hmm.
and there is a right and a wrong, and there is an ethical way to do something and an unethical way to do something. But I don't
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that. I believe that, um, maybe not completely disbelieve that, but I believe more of a, ethics can be a little gray sometimes,
Mm-hmm.
and not to be obviously confused with morals, which is really it's a based on a belief system. Morals, ethics is more of a process scaffold
Mm-hmm.
for decision making, almost a logic, because you have all the different types of ethical dilemmas, and people will still come to different ethical conclusions,
Mm-hmm.
and I think both can be right.
Okay. Okay. I mean,
I'm not saying that every time they are right, but they can be right, I think.
right. Yeah. I would definitely venture to say that, like, I agree with you. I would say, just to kind of like an oversimplification of what ethics is when we talk about ethics, generally speaking, is what people consider to be right or wrong, right? Is like that the right way to do things, the wrong way to do things, and that's an oversimplification of what ethics is. Because if you've ever gotten into ethics in philosophy, oh boy, that is a can of worms and
Yeah.
a half. So it's definitely not like a very simple thing when we're talking when you kind of break down ethics philosophically, because what is considered ethical um, in a lot of situations really kind of changes, right, with the situation, the circumstance, and who it is that you're talking to, right? Um, from one internal perspective, they might think that something that they're doing is ethically correct because like the ends justify the means. But externally speaking, we can objectively view something as being kind of like unethical, right? So it's a weird one. Now, in magic, um, I think maybe giving an example of something that's ethical slash unethical, and obviously these are open to interpretation, right? So I think, I don't know, animal sacrifice, ethical or unethical, Mystic?
Animal sacrifice for the sake of animal sacrifice, to me, would be unethical.
Unethical.
Animal sacrifice with the intent to feed a group of people as part of a ritual, but still as, you know, for real dinner, for sustenance, is different. And I think those things can be done ritually. So I don't like to say just yes or no.
Okay.
But just for the sake of a sacrifice for the god, no, that to me is absolutely unethical.
Okay. Okay. And I think generally speaking, like the majority of the community would probably agree with that statement, that's,
Yeah.
it's objectively unethical. Um, and then so I think, like, one thing that could be viewed as extreme but still ethically okay would be, for example, light blood magic, prick of the finger, couple drops here, charge a sigil, right?
Mm-hmm.
So,
Consenting adults who decide, I don't even care if you take a knife and cut a vein, between two consenting adults,
right.
ethical. As long as
exactly.
one's not exerting power over the other to convince them to do something they wouldn't otherwise do.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. Agreed. So those are a few examples and kind of like how we would kind of define ethical and unethical inside of the occult, right? So what's the differences like when we look at like the golden rule, which is kind of like the harm none kind of thing, and then like left hand path ethics? So again, taking into consideration that the left hand path isn't a spiritual path, but kind of like an overlay that of philosophical belief that can work in conjunction with your beliefs. Um, I would say that the left hand path definitely blurs the line of what is ethical or unethical. Um, so I think that ethics in the left hand path exist to the individual and not necessarily to the community. I think that there are things that could potentially be considered unethical that are in the left hand path. Again, the ends justify the means kind of thing. Especially like if you look at, I would definitely say that I think that Santeria is very heavily or can very heavily be left hand path. And in Santeria, sacrificing a chicken is, kind of like a big thing. Now, I'm going to be completely honest. I don't know what they do with the chicken after they're done using it. I don't know if it becomes extra crispy, original recipe, or what. But in that practice, in that cultural basin, it's definitely considered something that's like, because the ends justify the means, they view it as something that is ethically done. Now, could some people also blur the line of ethics into whether something is humane or inhumane? Do you think?
I I mean, yeah. Especially since our, what do you call it? Our, locus of self is human, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, if where we come from is a place of humanness, then yeah, humanity, or whether something is humane or not, definitely would factor into an ethical decision, I think.
Okay. So,
I
do you
do,
think
yeah.
some people might try to blur the line and say that an animal sacrifice is ethical because the sacrifice is made humanely?
I mean, sure, people will make that argument because we can apply ethics on an individual or group level, right?
Mm-hmm.
And if we apply ethics at a group level, we can say, hey, 50 people, killing an animal is bad. And then there can be a situation where some people feel differently and they're going to have to make that decision and that determination.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
To me, killing it humanely or not doesn't matter. It's ethically, it's ending a life without a true purpose. But then
Mm-hmm.
you get into the difficulty of define what a purpose is. What's an appropriate purpose,
Mm-hmm.
right?
This is the direction I was
So,
hoping this conversation was going to go. We're really breaking it down.
oh, I know, yeah, and I mean, that's it. I don't want to get into other political decisions, but that's part of how my political ethics go.
Mm-hmm.
I can say what I feel is right for myself and say what I feel is right on a group level, but I
Mm-hmm.
cannot say what is right for somebody else on an individual level.
Mm-hmm.
So my dog
It,
just tried to hop up and he fell. That's funny. Poor
I
Bubba.
definitely, I definitely would say it's a. I mean, dare I say, it's a gray area that, for the most part, we really um, want to make black and white, right? Like, because again, you're talking about purpose, right? Like now defining purpose. Um,
Hmm.
like we would look at an ethical purpose, like we talked about at the beginning, an ethical purpose being, food, right? Um,
Yep.
however, again, that can be moved purpose as in this is necessary for, I don't know, let's say somebody's doing a ritual to heal somebody that's sick, right? Which,
Hmm.
in some cultures that's a thing. And, that sacrifice of that animal, culturally speaking, is necessary for that ritual to actually function, which would define purpose into the sacrifice, right? And for them, again, the ends justify the means. So, though objectively, now chances are, if we're talking about a culture that's doing this, we're probably talking about like a less, or a more underdeveloped country or group of
Hmm.
people, right? So we're probably not talking about a westernized society that has access to, decent medical care with or without cost. So, and even if like you're talking about people that can't afford medical care, I don't think that they're going to resort to killing a chicken to cure a disease, right?
You
So
never know.
true. Um, I just think it's interesting because the argument can be made on both sides. I mean, now it really kind of depends on where kind of like you draw the line on whether or not you accept the argument, right? But it is interesting that there is a argument that can be made on both sides of like, one, what defines purpose, two, what defines whether or not the action is ethical. And obviously, like, so here we're just talking about like sacrifice, right? And I think it's probably the most polarizing aspect of ethics and magic, because animal sacrifice is a thing, blood magic is a thing. Going further down the pipeline, something that's a little bit more obscure, right? That I think that we don't draw such a hard line on most of the time is, for example, hexing and cursing people, right? And I've always kind of felt like one of the reasons, like, I feel like there's this inherent thing in the back of our heads that says that this is, this is not what I believe, right? I don't believe that this is what we're doing, but I think that there is something in the back of our heads that says this, which is why we don't draw such a hard line on cursing or hexing people. So here's the thing, right? So if I were to grab a knife out of the kitchen and go run down the street and stab the first person I saw, or, I don't know, let's say my neighbor cut me off in traffic and I know where he lives. So I grab the knife out of the kitchen, go over to the house and stab him in the eye, right? Because he cut me off. We would definitely say, not only is that unethical, but you need some help, man. Right?
Hmm.
And I always kind of find it funny that we don't apply that same logic to cursing and hexing. We don't apply that same level of determinant morality to cursing and hexing someone, because essentially, so for me, in my opinion, if you're going to curse someone, if you're going to hex someone, magically speaking, it's the same thing as going next door and stabbing your neighbor in the eye for cutting you off in traffic. If that's the reason you're cursing or hexing the person, right, for cutting you off in traffic. I think we had somebody in the chat once that said that they've done that, so that's why I'm kind of using that as an example.
Well, I mean, again, we go back to personal opinion on what our individual moral and ethical, playbook is, right? It's kind of like when you think about the five agreements. What are the agreements that you've made with the world or with yourself to do the things that you do? And if you are the type of person that is going to feel comfortable stabbing somebody because they cut you off, then you're going to be the same kind of person that feels it's okay to hex somebody for the same
Mm-hmm.
reason. But I see people applying the same ethics to both situations.
Okay.
I don't hex people just because I'm pissed off, because I'm an emotionally mature person for the most part.
Good to know.
So I just, will I do it? Absolutely, but not because you cut me off. You have
Right.
to. to me, there has to be an energy thing there. And when people do stupid shit, even though it pisses me off, I've gotten to the point where I don't hold them personally responsible for it because they're doing what their animal brain does, and we all are going to fuck up constantly, and that's going to happen. So cutting you off or even being an asshole or saying things and being nasty, I'm not going to hex or curse somebody for that kind of stuff.
Right.
Hurt me, hurt people in my system, then yeah, then that's going to be different because my ethics and the way I apply them, I'm not going to stab you in the eye for cutting me off, but I'm going to stab you in the eye for stabbing me in the eye.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and the law may not allow me to do that, so I'm
Right.
going to use my magical ways to do it.
Right.
But I feel that that's ethical.
No, I agree. I agree. I mean, kind of like the idea. One of the reasons why I don't curse and hex people is because, like, I do believe in kind of like, you know, a certain level of, you know, personal morality and personal ethics in it. I mean, it doesn't. Will I never do it? No. Have I done it before in the past? Yes, and it is because I've done it before in the past, and it has functioned better than I had anticipated when I did it. It like me hexing someone was kind of like the United States with Hiroshima, right? It's like, you know, I knew I had the ability to drop the bomb, but I didn't realize how bad the bomb was actually going to be. Right. And it was kind of like one of those situations that when the bomb dropped, I was kind of like, oh, shit. So, you know, so that's kind of like why I kind of made the choice, you know, after that to not do it again, because I know the damage that it can cause.
I agree with that to a degree, but I kind of feel like if you're in a, I don't even want to say that because we're all at different levels and myself included in that, but if I will consider hexing or cursing somebody at about the same level, I would pull my gun out and shoot you. It's not something you throw around easily for me. It's not something that you just do. You know, it's not something other people can do as much as they want. Oh, you know, it drives me nuts because people think it's strength. Like, you are not a strong person because you're hexing people that are mean to you. That's a weakness.
Yep.
That is a lack of understanding of human control and human functioning, in my opinion. So, you know, if I'm willing to go to the level of something like that, then I would be willing to do it in person too. Like, it's not there to supplant that or because I'm afraid to do it, which is what a lot of people do. I think people refer to hexes and curses because they're afraid to go up to the bitch and slap her.
Yep.
You know, but if you can't go up to her and slap her, then you shouldn't be hexing.
Yep.
Binding.
I agree with you.
Other return magic, things like that. Sure. Absolutely. But to me, once you get to the hex and curse and that level, you have gone past the balance of things, and you're upsetting the balance on purpose. And I think that's doable and fine. But it has to be, in my ethical world, it has to be something that you would still be willing to do, you know, in person.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that, you know, that assessment. You know, it is definitely something that, you know, you really have to, you know, think about it. And I understand that he's probably not the most popular intellectual mind here. But I would definitely go Jordan Peterson on this one.
I knew you were going to say that name. I was thinking in my head, I was like, please don't say Jordan Peterson. I can't stand that man.
Yeah, but I mean, the statement that he made though is perfectly in line with exactly what we're saying. And
that's the problem. He makes a lot of good sense sometimes, unfortunately.
Yeah, he does.
But anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So the idea of being peaceful isn't, you know, not being able to, you know, be cruel or cause harm, right? It's not the inability to do it, right? To say that you are harmless, that's not a good thing to say that someone is harmless. But to understand your capacity for violence and aggression for whatever means is necessary to display such a behavior, and actively make a choice not to do those things, one, shows emotional maturity and truly does make you a peaceful person, because you are choosing to be peaceful, because you understand your capacity for cruelty and violence and aggression. And I completely agree with that statement. Now, I'm kind of like, fumbling the way that he put it. He put it in a significantly more intelligent way. So I'm just kind of like, did you buy one of those candlestick things? Or is that the Kava bar?
No, yeah, it's just one of the lights. It just
Or did you steal
moving
it
it
from
around.
him?
No, they're mine. I took them there.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah, no, they're mine. So
so I definitely think that fits into exactly what you're saying. It's like, it's to say that, to know that you're capable of doing something, but choosing not to do that thing, because there's no point in it, right? Or at least in that circumstance, right? Like that circumstance, that situation, it doesn't call for that behavior. But to know and understand that you are like you're saying, like, I mean, you've got, probably more guns than a small militia, and so you're perfectly capable of shooting your next door neighbor for being an asshole, but you're not going to,
yeah.
And, that's inside the, understanding that there's emotional maturity there, right? There's an understanding of when that action is necessary and when you're just being a child with it, right? And having that level of control. So again, I know that Jordan Peterson isn't exactly like the most popular intellectual mind that could be brought up, but that statement, the first time I heard it, really stuck with me. Right? Because there are a lot of people out there that would like to think that, to sit there and say that being harmless is a good thing. And he made a very good psychological point as to why being harmless is a bad thing, not just societally speaking, but to the individual. Like, to truly be harmless and incapable of, any type of aggression is just not psychologically a good thing, because it means you're not capable of protecting yourself. And when you're not capable of protecting yourself, that makes you dangerous in the sense that you're going to do stupid shit because you feel like you need to do it to protect yourself. And you're just going to cause problems, not for yourself, but for everybody around you.
True.
So, yeah, I definitely think that that's something that, like, also should be kind of like, looked at in magic, honestly, is be capable of hexing and cursing and things of that nature, and understand, the lines in the sand that need to be drawn to where it is acceptable to perform baneful magic. But I think the difference between LHP, and here we come, I think almost full circle with this conversation, the difference between LHP and the golden rule, the left-hand path says that, that line in the sand is one that you have to draw for yourself. You have to figure out your position inside of societal ethics and morality, and define for yourself what and when it is acceptable to behave or act in such a way that is aggressive and dangerous towards other people. The golden rule would tell you that there is no situation or circumstance where it's okay to be aggressive or violent or cruel, that at all times you must be harmless. And it's not to say that it is a philosophy that doesn't work for many people. I'm sure that it does. I'm sure that people that have a propension for violence, ex-cons, criminals, violent criminals, people that have been through war, things of that nature. I'm pretty sure that, coming out of those situations, they're so stricken with violence, maybe something like the golden rule is kind of a good rule to have, right? Because maybe they don't know where to draw that line. Maybe they don't understand where the spectrum of aggression and violence exists. And it's just either 0 or 100 for them. And in those situations, perhaps the golden rule is beneficial. But I do also think that the golden rule is kind of like unrealistic. The whole idea of harm none. Because even if you try not to harm someone, you're inevitably going to. It might not be physically, right? It might not even be intentionally. But I don't think that human beings are truly capable of not actually harming anyone at any time in no way, shape, or form. I mean, Mystic, what do you think?
I mean, golden rule to me is not effective in any real truth of the matter, because it just isn't. I don't know. It's just not. I don't like it.
Me either.
It doesn't account for all of the different things that happen and all the different situations we find ourselves in, and there's do unto others as they do unto you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's do unto others as you would have them do unto yourself. That's the golden rule, right? You're supposed to treat person B the same way you would want them to treat you. I'm like, but if they're treating me poorly,
exactly.
the only thing my treating them well is going to do is
tell them it's okay to treat you badly.
Well, not only that, but it's going to diminish my own will, my own personal power, my own personal will. But you can't, once you get to a certain point and you understand that people do things out of so many other places, and it just isn't personal, and I'm not there yet, but I'm going towards that place, because I don't give a fuck. I am going to do unto you as you do unto yourself. So if you are a sour person and you feel like crap and you feel like berating me is going to help you, fine, berate me. I don't care. I don't have the energy to spend on it. But don't think I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to move on my place. That I tend to, lately, I've been in this thing where I state my case and then I don't talk about it again. And if somebody brings it up again, it's like, no, you know how I feel about that. I've moved on. You better too, or this isn't going to go well. Right? So it has to be in that method. Now, as far as golden rule for people like, I don't know, veterans or whatever, examples we can give, it's not about what an individual person is capable of, because we need all different kinds of people. You need the people that go 0 to 100 in 10 seconds. We need the people that are harmless. I think there is a place for people who consider themselves harmless, because we all live on a spectrum that changes over time and that can go both ways. Some days I am harmless. I have a really bad headache. I can't think straight. I'm not doing it. If somebody came at me that day, I'd lose. So I'm hoping on those days people don't come at me when I fuck up. So I'm not going to come at everybody else when they do the same thing. I'm going to give them grace. I'm going to have that space for that. But on other days when you're strong, you function that way, right? So kind of getting back to I'm going off topic, I know, a little bit, but it's really, for me, it comes down to this whole idea that everybody has to be all of one thing all the time at every time. We're not built that way. Our morals and our values are going to change. Our ethics, as much as we have them, we're going to step over them. Whether you're left-hand path, right-hand path, up, down, under, A, B, left, right, start, select. We're going to step around and mess up on our stuff. And we're going to really try hard not to be passive, or, you treat me poorly and I'm just going to be a bitch back, but to come from a place of understanding of, their fears and the way that they're acting, but still at the same time not be a doormat, right? So to me, a strong method of answering an ethical dilemma when I have a disparity between me and somebody else I would disagree with, or that they have a different thing, is I remove myself from the situation now. You know, it's like I don't fight online. I don't fight on Facebook. This is my statement, and that's it. You know, I this is how I feel. This is my thing. I'm not here to make your life miserable, but I'm not here to allow you to make me miserable either. And that's
Hmm.
the other side of that golden rule is um, you're allowed to stand up for yourself.
Yeah.
You
Well, I
know,
mean, it's like, so for example, like, I mean, you're talking about kind of like, the whole fighting on Facebook thing. I think I was having this conversation earlier with Dyra. I think that the internet has made people braver to say stupid shit to the wrong people. Because I think
oh for
one
sure.
thing, yeah, I think one thing that this newer generation is missing, like Gen Z and forward, is
Yeah.
honestly, like, you guys haven't been punched in the face enough. Like, I'm gonna be completely honest. Like, y'all think it's okay to be popping off to the wrong people, and you say some stupid, like, I mean, and
But
it's
what really good does that do though? Like if I pop off at the wrong person and the person punches me, we're both immature at that level. We both fucked up. That's not going to change anything.
no, I mean, but I mean, it
Because
teaches a little couth though. Like, I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, at least when you're a kid, I'm talking about
uh,
stuff that happens when you're a teenager, you know?
nah, I don't agree with that. Just that to me is a vicarious living of parents through their children, because their kids have either anger issues or can't figure out how to appropriately address or move through a situation.
I think
Because
that there's, I mean,
I
I've
don't
been
think there's
punched in
any
the,
benefit to physically harm somebody for speaking.
eh, I mean,
There's never a situation to me where it is okay or appropriate for me to hit you or
maybe
engage you
not.
violently from you popping off or speaking to me if
Well, I
just because I
mean,
didn't like it.
maybe not, but I mean, you know,
Mhm.
I think that when that stuff happens when you're younger, right? Like when you're a teenager and you're in high school, like maybe it is wrong to get punched in the face because you said something stupid to somebody, but at the end of the day, it happens.
Yeah,
And
but the same thing could be happen on the other end of it. You punch me in the face for saying something, and now I never speak up for myself. That's not a valid track for learning.
well,
A valid
this is
track for
true.
learning is something occurs, you have an open conversation with your parents, and your parents guide you to the right decision. You know?
I mean, in a perfect world, um,
Yeah.
you know, but what it taught me, right, when I was a kid, because I was that jackass that talked a lot. I talked a lot of shit as a kid. I mean, I still talk a lot of shit. And I really can't count the amount of times that I got into fights because I just, popped off and said something stupid. Okay, I remember one time in specific. I'll give you guys a specific anecdotal example. Okay, so there is this kid in in my high school that looked like he belonged on a farm, like literally. Like, I mean, he would go to school looking like, like fucking Chuck Norris. Like, I mean, he needed to be on a farm, like lifting a hay bale or something. And he always used to wear this obnoxious fucking cowboy hat. And being the jackassy teenager that I was, there's one day like he walked by me in the hallway, and I was walking with a buddy of mine, and I went yeehaw, and I said it a little too loud, and he heard me, and dude turned around in like less than 2.5 seconds, like less than a second and a half, grabbed me, slammed me against the wall, and he looks at me. He's like, "You got a problem with my hat, boy?" Like full country, like southern in upstate New York, right? Full like southern accent. Like you think the dude is like from Georgia or Virginia or fucking something like that. Um. Anyway, so he didn't punch me in the face. Um. But there was a lesson learned there. What was the lesson that was learned?
That
Sometimes there are
people
thoughts
are
that you.
assholes.
What's that?
That people are assholes.
Well, I
See,
mean,
that never
yeah,
taught me
well,
to be quiet. That taught me to be louder.
see, no, me that taught me that taught me that like, yeah, there are thoughts that you have in your head that you probably shouldn't let reach your lips.
That was, to me, that was a failure of your parents of teaching you how to manage and say and speak for yourself. That never should have occurred from you. Both children failed in that case.
hmm So,
You know,
but I feel like the thing is like, I mean, it's not that I don't speak up for myself, like if I feel like I'm being wronged, but
hold on
it
1 second.
taught me.
Or
Yeah, no problem.
keep talking. I'm still here.
Yeah, but what it taught me, at least in my era, it taught me that there are and should be consequences for disrespecting people that don't deserve to be disrespected. And that's what I learned in that situation. It didn't teach me to be quiet. It didn't teach me not to defend myself because I was in the wrong. Right? In what I did in that situation. I was being a dick. And it was the epitome of play stupid games, win stupid prizes. And so that was the lesson that like I learned in that situation. And so I do feel, me personally, I do feel that, what is happening in today's, generation is with the,
That cat needs to go inside, please. She just fell into the pool twice. You just shut the door and I got her in there. Sorry.
No, it's all good. With us as kids, at least I think as millennials, because I guess I'm an elder millennial, is where I'm at on the spectrum of age.
Now, yeah.
That's what we learned. We learned through interacting with the world and interacting with people that there are consequences to the thing. There are real world consequences to things that you say. Like, words aren't just words. Sometimes those consequences are you make fun of the wrong person, you hurt them enough, and they do something to themselves. Or you say it to someone else and something happens to you. Either way, you learn that there are real world consequences to the things that you do, say, and don't do. And so for me, that's what that was. It taught me to be more respectful of those around me that were different, rather than trying to compensate for my own insecurities by trying to be the bully. So, because essentially that's what I was doing in that situation, right? Like I was trying to compensate for my own petty insecurities by trying to bully somebody else or making fun of somebody else in the way that they look because people did the same thing to me. And so what that taught me is it taught me to defend myself, because through defending myself, I would be respected to some degree because I wasn't going to take it laying down. And it taught me to not project my insecurities onto other people and to deal with them in a more healthy, manageable way. So for me, that situation of being slammed in the wall by that kid, yeah, I can agree with what you're saying overall in today's society that, yeah, okay, both sides failed in that. But there was a lot that I learned in the nuance of that situation that I don't think I would have if it didn't happen.
See, I can't argue or speak to what you did and didn't learn in that situation, but I would argue that everything that you described did not happen at that situation. What you learned and applied happened in many different situations and could have come about very easily without that.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So I did not have to get punched in the face to learn that I shouldn't be an asshole. That was a problem before, right? Nobody
Okay.
had to tell me, nobody had to hit me or hold me up against the wall to say, Brian, you really shouldn't be a dick to people. My parents taught me that. My
Mm-hmm.
parents taught me to not be an asshole and to care about people and to be considerate about feelings. And when I said stuff and hurt people's feelings, all they had to do is say that really hurt my feelings. And I felt like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I never meant to say that. I didn't need somebody to hold me up to a wall or punch me or shove me in a locker to teach me those things.
Mm-hmm.
Violence does not teach you to be a better person in any shape or form. It scares you. It makes you reevaluate things.
Mm-hmm.
But that is a symptom to me of a bigger problem, not of the response to that situation. You know what I mean? And it's
Mm-hmm.
not even just parents. It's teachers, students, all that kind of stuff. Now, um, I've had certain violent situations in my childhood, and what they taught me was that I was too weak, that I was not capable,
Mm-hmm.
that I could not defend myself, that I did not deserve to live. Those are the things that violence taught me.
Mm-hmm.
So the moral of the story is that violent actions do teach you that there are repercussions, but they don't teach you what the repercussions are, because the repercussions aren't always violence. What we have to learn and what we need to learn, and I think something that our current generation actually has learned relatively well, is that we really need to understand people's feelings and thoughts, and that's kind of where where our concern is, and what we see when we say, the kids these days they did it. I'm like, mm-mm. The kids these days, they have been given the worst of every single piece of society that we can give them. The only thing that we can give better to the current, I don't even know what generation we're in now, to me, is
Alpha.
an
Alpha's the
ethical,
youngest.
yeah, an ethical guideline. So, and yes, kids today do have less respect for the elders, but guess what? And I'm going to say the unpopular opinion: we do not deserve respect in most cases. The parents, the people that have brought up the current generations, and the elderly people, they're assholes. They're bullies. They're jerks. They're unethical. They don't deserve to be respected. And that has always been a big sticking point for me when it comes to ethical discussions. Is this whole, you have to give respect to get it, or I get respect because I made it to 75 years old. Like, no, you get respect because you're a good person and you treat people kindly and well.
Well, I've always believed that
So
respect should be earned, never given.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
I start from a place of like kind of even respect. Like, I won't be disrespectful to you, basically.
mhm.
But I don't care if you're 85 years old. If you're a bitch, you're a bitch.
Well, I
And I
think what
think
people misconstrued about the idea of earning respect is there's different like respect, like
it should
many
be
things, is on a
developing, not earning.
yeah, like respect, like many things, is on a spectrum. Like I'll give you basic
Yeah,
human respect, off the bat, but like beyond that, like you have to earn that shit, you know.
yeah. To me, it should be, yeah. You start on a place of respect, and then you develop trust. You know,
Exactly.
and people have different ideas of what respect is. The only reason that even comes into play and is from an ethical standpoint. The things that shape us are so different from person to person. There's no way that we're ever going to find a situation or a system that's going to give us all the right answers.
hmm
But we can have a few bases, right? Our bases of um, harm ye none, but take no shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. No, I
So
mean,
you're
yeah.
not you're not going out from a place of like the kid who holds you. Yeah, that was coming from a place of harm. That kid did not know how to manage his emotions.
hmm
Um, you know,
I mean, so
I
in,
just
in
I
Maeve
do.
to answer your question about who or what it is I'm talking about, there was a comment left on one of the videos that I made for my son, um, that just said, why don't you send these to your son instead of public posting them here and trying to get attention? And I mean, it pissed me off because that's not what I'm doing. Like, it for me in my head, it's isn't it logical that if I'm posting them on YouTube that I'm not able to communicate with my son?
I mean, that wouldn't be my first logical thought if I assumed you were in the current generation of people. But that, I mean, that brings you to another question about if that person is that person somebody you know.
No, I have no idea who the hell the person is.
So then why does that have any weight or bearing on how we feel?
Well, it affects me because, I mean, at least in my mind, the reason why it upset me is because having a comment like that uncontested um, could potentially lead other people that wouldn't inherently think that to begin to think that is the purpose of the videos, and that's not the purpose of the videos.
Yeah.
And,
And none of
and
those who matters though in those videos? Who's the intended target audience?
my son, and that's it.
And then anybody else that puts anything up there doesn't matter. And this is one of the things that I've had a lot of trouble with lately, and I'm getting at it because it's an ethical piece of it to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if people who I don't know can cause me to get angry or upset for any reason, then I have given my power away to somebody that I don't know, that has no bearing
Mm-hmm.
on my life,
You're not
you know?
wrong.
So that's why, like, people will say this too. Like, I'll post on Facebook and somebody gets mad or puts something, I delete it. I'll delete it and block you. I don't give a fuck. It is a Facebook
Mm-hmm.
page. You
Yeah.
know, same thing with YouTube. If somebody goes on there and rails against me, I'm like, I don't like the way you look. I'm deleting you because it's my page.
Well, I mean,
I'm
the
not trying
thing
to
is
silence the
like,
masses and
well, I mean,
all that shit.
yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, I mean, I think you and I have like a decent understanding of each other, though. Like, do I agree with everything you post? Fuck no. But do I respect it? Yeah, of course I do.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
But it's not.
and by the way, like when I say that I don't agree with everything he posts, it's not like the fundamental concept of what he's posting that I disagree with. There's certain nuances that I disagree with. Fundamentally, I feel that Mystic and I are on the same level and we have the same ideas, like fundamentally speaking, on the base level. But I think the nuances is where him and I kind of butt heads a little bit with certain things, and that's fine. Like I'm not going to say he's not my friend because we disagree on a fucking nuance.
Yep.
You know, and what do? I don't say anything. The fuck's the point? I mean, I might make a wisecrack on some of this stuff. You know, I mean, posted one thing about I don't know what fucking software. I was like, "What? Are you trying to get a commission?"
Yeah, what was that? I mean, I guess the end result for me is out of all the discussion, you know, from an ethical standpoint, is there's never going to be a one size fits all. But the best we can do is to try not to be assholes. And when somebody's an asshole to us, it doesn't help to be an asshole back. It,
Ooh, the
but
one thing, I'm sorry to cut you off. The one thing I do want to talk to you about on the show, and I want to talk about it now before I forget, because this is such an interesting concept to me, and I want to understand it more, and I want to talk about it because I want to understand it more. The whole tolerance thing, right? So the whole concept of like the tolerance paradox thing.
Yep.
All right. I'm not going to say shit because I don't know what the fuck it is. You take the stage and explain that shit, and then I'll give an opinion if I have one.
So, I mean, first, I kind of have to say, like, my on that as a topic is I don't like tolerance. I do not want to be tolerated.
Okay.
That is such a piss poor example of treating human beings that you don't know. Tolerate.
Okay.
I tolerate the air being too cold sometimes. I tolerate sound of people chewing when I'm out in public, which I don't like. I
Mm-hmm.
tolerate that. I don't tolerate people. I don't need to be tolerated. Um, but I think what really bothers me about all of that discussion is, well, I guess I should say what the paradox of tolerance is. And there's a lot of talk about whether that's even a thing or not, right? Yeah, there's a lot of discussion. But ultimately, it's I, and this is I've got to get the whole thing out. So it's going to be choppy because I haven't organized my
Okay.
thoughts on it very well. the paradox of tolerance basically states that if you are seeking tolerance, let's just pretend that that's a good word and I like it. And I'm gay and I am seeking for society to tolerate me in this society. I want to be able to live and have the same freedoms and rights as everybody else does based on one thing, and that is being gay, which so many people do not fucking understand that gayness has nothing to do with sex, by the way. That just pisses me off. I'm
Mm.
not gay because I like cock. I'm gay because I am attracted to men, and that is how I've been since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. And it's interesting in therapy how much more of that stuff comes out, and you can see how it is. But anyway, that's the story of the day, right? So if I'm fighting for tolerance of gay people, just to be tolerated in society, so that we can exist with the same things as other people, like marriage,
Mm-hmm.
which I don't give a fuck. I'm a unpopular opinion with marriage. I don't care about gay marriage. I don't care about marriage. I care about if your marriage gets you um, financial benefit with the government, then I should get that same option extended to me.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't, then I don't want it either. Get married in your church. I don't care. But so that paradox says that if I am seeking tolerance, I can't be tolerant of the opposing side because that opposing side undermines the very value of tolerance itself. The difference is I am not asking and I'm going to use this because this is the target audience that causes me the most problems.
Okay.
A Christian person who tells me that I should die and I should go to hell and burn because I'm gay, fine. I still should get all of the same rights afforded to anybody else under our government system.
Mm-hmm.
Period. And
Mm-hmm.
and so so I'm not asking somebody to say that it's okay or change their beliefs. I'm
Mm-hmm.
asking them to treat me equally. And
Mm-hmm.
that is tolerance. I, again, don't like the word.
Mm-hmm.
So the argument is that I am not tolerating the Christian's belief that gayness is wrong. Like, don't care. You can call me wrong all day. You can't make laws that change how I'm treated because I am gay. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's two different arguments, right? The argument for me is I don't believe like you and you don't believe like me, but you can't legislate against me.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. That's tolerance. And so if I allow, and I get this all the time, oh, these libtards, because that's what cause nobody knows I'm not liberal, but whatever. Um, and like the libtards, look at them being so intolerant against the Christians. I'm like, you don't pay taxes in your church, but you can affect an election. You have all of these things in place, and all I want to do is be able to get married and be afforded the same basic human rights as somebody else. And yes, as an oppressed group, which I use that lightly because I haven't experienced a lot of oppression personally. I've had a really, I think, relatively easy life when it comes to being out and being, I haven't had a whole lot of issues. So it's been
Mm-hmm.
great. Some, but but the idea that we overdid it, right? So for example, like gay pride. And this goes for anything too. It doesn't have to be gay either. It's any other minority group.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have pride because we want to be out in your face, and we went overboard. We go nuts because for so long we weren't allowed to even exist. It was still illegal in Texas, what, 5 years ago for two men to be in a bed together, and people were arrested for that.
That's insane to
That's
me.
not okay. It is insane. So that is what I'm asking. And again, I hate the word tolerance. I'm not asking you to tolerate me. I'm asking you to stop legislating against me and make it equal. Let's be honest. Black people were considered 3/5 of a human being and were enslaved. It doesn't matter how they got here. It doesn't matter. None of that matters. You can't tell me that an entire group isn't still getting repercussions from being slaves. And that was not that long ago. When was segregation? 60s, 50s? I don't know my history very well. Um,
Yeah, I
we
think there's
can't
still segregation in the
tolerate.
60s.
Yeah, I'm asking you to tolerate black people and gay people as human beings, and I'm not going to tolerate you being an asshole or legislating against me. That's the paradox of tolerance. If that makes sense.
It does actually.
And it's
What you just
very
said makes a hell of a
infuriating.
lot more sense than your posts do.
Well, Facebook is meme world and pictures. right?
So, yeah, I mean, based off of the
But
post,
and
I had an opinion. Based off of what you said, I completely agree.
well, a lot of people don't believe in the paradox of tolerance either, and think that it's a false thing, and I can see that too, because again, tolerance isn't the right word.
and
It
see, guys,
is.
I don't mean to cut you off, but I want
Yeah,
to
you're
say this
fine.
before I forget. This is, I think, this is another like really important thing that we as a society need to start paying attention to. Pay attention to what I just said. Based off of what his post said, how his post was put, because it wasn't his words, it was just a picture
It's a
explaining the
meme.
thing,
I just
right?
Yeah.
Based off of that, there was a lot of nuance to that that didn't make sense to me, and I, to a certain extent, disagreed with it. Based off of what he just explained, there is absolutely nothing that I disagree with. It is extremely important to have conversation about things and
Hmm.
not assume that you think you know what someone is about without actually hearing them out first.
I have learned that Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, all of these apps, X, they're all they are is your best high school project collage, and you have to treat them that way. You
Mm-hmm.
cannot judge anybody on a Facebook page. Like, it's just not. Like, I'm on Facebook all the time, and nothing makes me angry anymore. If I don't like something, I just don't reply because it's not part of my world. I don't
Mm-hmm.
care, and my life is so much easier. But I still like going on there and seeing stuff. I like seeing how my friends are doing and some of the stuff. But you also know they're posting whatever's their best situation,
Yeah.
and I think it's hilarious that people go through all that process. Like, I don't know. It's just it's funny. So I get a lot of people posting certain things. I'll give you a good example. I'm in a lot of motorcycle groups, and this is a part of an ethical discussion too, by the way. I'm in a lot of motorcycle groups, and there's a lot of people right now dying on motorcycles. And one of the things that motorcyclists like to say is, "You're responsible for my safety, but I'm obviously responsible for my safety. But please look out for motorcyclists, right?"
Mm-hmm.
And you cannot believe how many people will post when R.I.P. Jamie, my best friend, died on a motorcycle yesterday. Oh, he must have been speeding. I'm glad he's dead. Glad he died. And that's just constant on these things. Yeah, motorcyclists should all die. They're terrible. People post that shit. I can guarantee you, if I talk to them in person, they don't believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And that is part of the disconnect. And it's not generational, by the way. These are
Mm-hmm.
people from age 20 to 80 saying this stuff, mostly older.
Right.
Well, they need to die because they act like they own the road. I'm like, oh, because they ride like an asshole, they deserve to die. Like, that's not okay.
Yeah, no, it's not.
That's an ethical like idea. And can you imagine, kind of like your story earlier, what that person's mother feels like right now reading that their son, who was speeding, made a bad decision and died, is
Mm-hmm.
reading posts on a Facebook page that I'm glad he's died. All motorcyclists should go through it. And I'm using that as just an example
Yeah.
of how the internet has ruined us, but it hasn't ruined the new generation. It's ruined everybody.
Yeah. No, I completely agree with that. It's oh, God, man, it's so it's so tough. Like, I'm gonna be honest. Like, I'm really glad. This is gonna sound stupid to a lot of people in chat, but I'm very grateful that I'm very good friends with people that have very polarizing opinions to my own.
It's
Because
necessary to survive.
yeah, I don't think otherwise I would be able to have a conversation with anyone and be able to understand these things at the level that I'm able to understand them by asking Brad or Brian, what this means or what that means, or like why'd you say this? Because I don't judge him, either of them, on anything that they post. They have very good reasoning for feeling the way that they feel about whatever it is that they're posting. But the
I judge
one
Brad's a
thing,
little bit. They're a little crazy.
I mean, to each their own, right? But the important thing is I don't jump on his posts and start attacking what he's saying. I asked the question, hey man, what do you mean? You know, so I can understand it. And I think that that's one thing a lot of us are missing. We see something we disagree with and we jump on it and want to attack it. And in some cases, I mean, that's valid. Like in some cases, that is valid. I actually feel, I'm going to be honest, this pissed me off and made me feel bad at the same time. So there's this post. Oh God, I feel like when I realized who it was that I was typing on. So you know Matt's husband, right? Devin?
Yeah, one of the three. Uh-huh.
Yeah, okay. So he posted the whole Nazi thing in Ohio, right?
I read that.
Yeah, and me being the conspiracy theorist that I am, I jumped on it and I'm like, why do I have this sneaking suspicion this is fucking Antifa dressed up like Nazis just to start some shit? You know, like that it was just, you know, a random comment. It's not like I don't believe that. I'm just like, it's just a thought that popped in my head and I just typed it. I didn't realize that it was Devin's post. I just didn't pay attention to who posted it, just saw the post and added my 2 cents to it. He very quickly unfriended me. And I've been continually getting replies to that comment without the ability to defend myself.
That'll do it.
You know, and I'll be honest, I feel bad. And I don't know Devin. I've spoken with Matt briefly, and Matt's a good person. And Devin seems like a very good person as well.
He's one of the first podcasts I ever listened to, witchy podcast ever. Period.
Okay. So
back in the day, I think it was called Modern Witch, maybe. I don't remember.
Okay, I didn't know that. You know, but I felt bad because I might say some stupid shit sometimes. But to be completely honest, I don't do it with the intention of offending anyone. It's just a thought pops in my head and a thought comes out, whether through my lips or my fingers.
Yeah. I think 2 things that kind of about that, and I like this because these are all relatively appropriate ethical situations that we find ourselves in.
Mm-hmm.
There is so much anger because we are polarizing ourselves, and it's so easy to just cut things off. And like when I said earlier, like if I don't like what somebody says, or if they post something, I'll delete them. I don't usually block people because I just am going to get rid of what you said. Because if it's on my page,
Yeah.
I just delete it. Like because it's my page. Like it's curated to what I like, and if I don't want to see things I don't like, so it's not a medium for me to get my news and have life altering conversations. That's for kava and cocaine at a bar. And I'm just kidding. But that's for a different situation, right? So
totally.
But there's so much especially recently about standing up stronger for your own side and fighting for everything. Like I guess I'm getting to the place now where I just don't want to fight.
Neither do
And
I.
so the more and more I can be more and more angry at somebody across the aisle that believes that I should burn in hell. The angrier I get at them now, it's absolute fury. But I don't have the energy anymore, or this there's no longer this desire to like scream at them. I just think I really wish you knew that who I think your God is way better a person than even you think. And if you listen to him, I'm betting you're going to find out that you might be wrong in how you're acting.
Right.
But that's just an example of it. So there's so much stress around Trump. I'm not going to go into politics, but there's so much stress around it that people immediately shut down with any conversation related to anything. And that's what that was. I mean, that was a political response, right?
Yep.
And that I myself am highly damaged and don't respond well to people when they talk about those type of or politics really in general. So I have to be
Mm-hmm.
very careful because I mean, I'm going on a motorcycle ride tomorrow with 15 people. I'm probably the only person that is not a Trump supporter.
There's nothing
I
wrong
am
with
probably
that.
the only one. The only one. But am I still going to go with them? Yeah. We still going to have breakfast at Waffle? Yeah. We're still going to ride our bikes, our motors? Yeah. We're still going to do that because if we all stop doing that, there will be nobody else to bring the bridge together. It will never happen.
Yeah. Well, I
So
think one of the
it's
things
sad.
that,
It's sad that he blocked you, I guess is what I'm saying. But I can
yeah,
understand it.
no, I understand why. I mean, I
It
still
sucks.
felt bad though.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't meant
That's
to. It
good. That
wasn't.
means you're growing.
It wasn't. It wasn't meant to. I mean, and my initial response was that I was pissed, and I wrote a lengthy
I saw
Facebook
it.
post. You know, um, and then after
I saw it
the
and rolled my eyes and moved
yeah,
on.
and then and then like the after the pissed off stage went through, I was kind of like, now I feel bad. But I think one of the things that we needed to start doing as a society is stop looking at the candidates and start looking at the policies. Like I don't want
Yeah.
to get into politics, but I
No.
think one of the biggest issues that we're having is we keep focusing on the fucking candidate, and we need to start focusing on the policy. Both sides. Both it doesn't matter who. Both sides. We need to start focusing and talking about the policies because that's the part that
Yeah.
actually matters. Those are the things that are going to be implemented.
Well, yes. The hard part though is that here, and this is going to remind you of a conversation we had when we first started talking.
Yep.
There's a fundamental difference in legislating the price of eggs and legislating what a woman can do with her body, for example. And I'm not saying I believe either one
Mm-hmm.
or feel a certain way about either one. I'm just saying that you cannot. I do not believe you can bridge that gap.
Well, I think the thing is
Because
with
we're in
the
different places.
division, with the division that exists right now, neither side is listening to the other. Everything's being looked at as just a talking point, right? It's just a broken record. And I think if we actually sat down with each other and said, look, this is the actual policy that this administration wants to implement on either side. Like,
Well, we got a taste of that.
And I don't see anybody doing that. Like, I'm seeing so much stuff. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people making up shit. I'm seeing a lot of people running with conspiracy theories.
It's the same argument for me, the ethical argument of your spiritual system tells you that I should go to hell, therefore you want to pass legislation that prevents me from getting married, versus I want to be treated like those things aren't equivalent.
No.
So I can't just be friends with you and agree to disagree on that. I agree with a lot of conservative governmental policies, a lot of them, probably most of them, but none of the social ones. Zero. There are zero social policies that I support, because I just don't. But that's kind of how it goes. Like it's just there's too many fingers in the pot legislative. So let's make it not about politics. Let's make it about ethics. Is it ethical for me to stand beside my sister, who's straight? I think that's a probably a very loose term for her.
Okay.
But she's married to a man. And I stand right here, and I am married to a man. Is it ethical for her to be able to go to the courthouse and get married, or unionized, whatever you want to call it, unionized, to have a civil union, but not me?
No, it's not.
And so that is one of the things that bothers me. Like there are policies that are trying to be put in place that will change that are coming. Do I think it's going to happen? No, I really don't. I think it's all overhyped. I really do. But that's not a fair. That's it. Everything else the states should figure out, and people will go where they want to go. Because we
Yeah.
sure are accepting that $1 billion federal grant coming down here to Florida. Sounds like we might be a welfare state. I'm just saying.
I mean,
But yeah, that's
it,
the ethical dilemma, right?
it is a pain in the ass. Like, I mean, so far the only thing that's got me actually kind of excited that I've heard that that particular administration wants to put in. I don't know if it's going to happen because Biden Harris talked about wiping student debt, and I was really excited about that because let's face it, I think most of us are still in student debt. I know I am. And it didn't happen. And I was very disappointed about that. And with only a couple months left, I don't think it's going to happen in the next couple of months.
No.
Yeah. And so what Trump has
Some
been talking
did.
about, what's that?
Some people did. There was a pretty big amount of people that did get a lot of their student debt wiped.
Yeah, I didn't get any. I would have
Me
liked to
either.
get some of that.
I'm still paying.
But the only
A
thing
lot.
so far that's got me kind of excited is, have you heard about this American Academy thing?
No.
So apparently, one of the things that he wants to implement is a 100% free accredited university called the American Academy that will pull together different professors from major universities to provide free higher education to American citizens.
It'd be interesting if it works.
I mean, it would be nice to see. Do I think, again, like just like wiping my student debt? I mean, I was excited for that, and that didn't happen.
Dude, I'm excited and I know this sounds silly. I do not like any of the cabinet picks. But the merging of the Department of Education and Department of Labor is a potential in the new that makes sense. There's things that make sense.
How do you feel about? I'm curious. How
Bert
do you
and
feel
Ernie
about
should be running it?
Doge?
No.
How do you feel about Doge?
Dude, no. Just no. No. I mean, no.
Okay, so
the entire cabinet is a clown car that is just waiting to open.
So
But
I do have
you
to
know
say
what?
this.
The world's not going to fold.
Yeah, this is true. I mean, the world's not going to end, but I do have to say this.
I don't know. I can't with that. That's beyond my capabilities tonight. Like my brain.
Yeah, no. I mean,
I
dude
can't.
does not know how to name shit, man. Like,
I'm one of the weird people. Like I want my Second Amendment rights. I want my guns. I don't want anybody to touch those. But I just want everybody to have the exact same opportunity as it pertains to the government. Period. End of story. And yep. I'll say my thing on immigration too, just because we're on the topic. Being on the other side of a border does not make somebody an alien or less of a person or less of a human. Period. There has to be a better way to deal with that. I don't know what it is, but neither administration knows how to handle that. So none ever has.
Yeah, no. So, I mean, it's because it's based off of old ideals. That's the thing. Like, if we're not willing to break away from old ideals and look at like how things are moving and how things are advancing, we're never going to find a better solution than anything, because it's always going to be a volleyball going back and forth with, what's potential and what isn't. Now, I'm one of those people that think that, people should try their best to enter a country legally. Whatever the requirements are for that. Does that mean that I think things should stay how they are? No. It does not mean that I think that things should stay how they are. But I don't think that breaking the law in the meantime is the best option.
Well, that and just it's just like guns. Like people want gun legislation. I'm sorry, you can disagree with me all you want. Anybody can. There are too many guns in this country. They're not going away ever.
Yeah, no.
It's just not happening. And so because it's not happening, learn how to do it the right way. That's all I'm saying.
You want a civil war to break out? Try to take an American's guns. Go to Texas and try to take their guns. See what the fuck happens.
It will not be cute.
Yeah, no, it's just not going to happen.
But I think the grand moral is not, immigration can be managed. It's already here. It's already a problem. There has to be some process to fix it, but there's a right way to do it.
Well, no, now they're making it
And
worse though. So
do it
the amount of immigrants that were moved to New York City, because New York City is one of the cities that has like a
safe
house.
harbor.
Yeah, exactly. So
Safe harbor.
anybody that doesn't have a place to live is allowed a place to live, like under any circumstances. So Texas was getting all these immigrants in, and they're sending them all to
Yeah,
New
they
York
were
City.
sending them up.
And so the thing is they had a pretty cushy deal. Like they're rotating who was staying inside the refugee housing and whatever, because there's just too many people coming in, so they couldn't house everybody at the same time. So there's like families and elderly people had priority and were able to stay longer, and there was a rotation, and they were getting these meal cards, right? So they would have a card with a certain amount of money on it for like a week or something for them to be able to eat. And then out of nowhere, they just like stop giving them money and stop rotating them in the housing. And they're just like, yeah, you're screwed. And it's like, yeah, that's not how you do that. I understand the administration is changing, but you don't just invite in 200,000 people, 300,000 people, and then just cut them off after I don't know how many months.
Yeah, I think that's the problem for me too. Is it's already here. It's already a problem. The way that I feel like I would do it is first take the fear out of people who are here illegally. Yes, it's illegally, but look, every day you drive on the fucking road, you go over the speed limit, it's technically illegal. Come on.
Yeah, true.
You know what I mean? So make it so that people aren't afraid to come out of hiding, and put an appropriate process in place for it to be done right. And then if they still don't do it, that's when you deport.
Yeah, that's fair.
But
That's fair.
even if we do everything the wrong way, the one thing we have to stop doing is using rhetoric that demonizes human beings that live on the other side of a piece of land, because we weren't here first either. So that's what pisses me off about it, is just denigrating people from like it makes I hate it. Just because you're on the other side, like 10 feet over there on a different piece of land, doesn't make you less of a human being. And that is the thing that pisses me off about that. And that's to me, really just empathy.
Yeah, I mean, no, I get it. I mean,
Basic.
no, I mean, in Mexico, man, you'd be surprised the amount of people that I met living in Mexico that had really successful lives over in the States, and something happened where they got found out that they were undocumented, and they got kicked back over with their family still over there,
Yeah.
mostly men. Most of them are men, because nine times out of 10, what'll happen is you'll have a couple that's not married. They have a kid. The kid, if they're not married, the kid will ground the mother, so the mother can stay in the States with the child, but the father can't, because the father's not married to the woman, so he doesn't get documented status, and then he gets kicked out. And the amount of people that I've met in Mexico, in Guadalajara, which is like in the middle of the country, that have faced that situation, it's heartbreaking, because they literally cannot get back into the States, because once they're kicked out, it's like they're not kicked out and then said, try again, like go to the embassy, ask for a visa. No, you can't come back. That's what happens. Like
I don't understand why it's not, and maybe I just don't understand it enough. Why isn't it like, hey, you're undocumented, we know you. You got 3 months to get this shit together and get this stuff done. Here's what you need to do, and we're going to work on, this is the path.
Well, that's what
And
should
if you
happen.
can't do that.
Well, unfortunately, I think what happens with ICE is like parking tickets for a parking cop. Like, how there's like a quota, like they have to have a quota of a certain amount of tickets that they put out, or a certain amount of arrests that they have, or stuff like that, right? We all know those quotas exist. We've stopped talking about them, but we know that they exist. All police officers have a quota. Like in each area, it's a little bit different. How many people they need to give a ticket to, how many people they need to arrest, whatever. ICE, I'm almost certain that ICE and ICE agents also have the same quota, like how many people that they have successfully deported from the country. right? They say this is how many undocumented people we're aware are in the country, so this is how many people you need to deport each month. And so what happens is they don't give a process. Like, they figure out that you're undocumented, they go in, they arrest you, they throw you in a literal cage made out of chicken wire, basically. And they just wait for a bus to pick you up and send you to the other side, and they tell you can never come back. And also living in Mexico, I've seen firsthand with people with spotless records, the right amount of money in the bank, like all the things that like the U.S. Embassy asks for before providing a visa for people to go into the United States. People that have prepared 2-3 years in advance to get their visa to go to the United States. A vacation visa, a tourist visa, not a visa to work, a fucking tourist visa. And it is thousands upon thousands upon thousands of people that are denied tourist visas every day. Like, I don't know what the criteria is for the United States to get in it. I don't know what things they look for, what things they don't. But I will say this as an American citizen that has lived outside of the United States and has witnessed firsthand what it is to get into the state. It's not easy. It's not easy to get into the States. Even with Dyra, when Dyra had to go through Dallas to get to Mexico. So England has a treaty with the United States where technically a British citizen does not need a visa to get into the United States. However, the United States being the United States, they ask for this other document. I can't remember what it's called right now, in order for someone to even pass through the United States that's from England. And it takes $20, and you have to like upload, like you can do it online by yourself. You have to upload your information, your passport, stuff like that. And basically what it is they check who you are, what your criminal history is, and then they approve it or deny it. And without this document, you can't even pass through the United States to go to another country. So essentially, even though a British person doesn't need a visa to come visit the United States, they still need a visa. If you get what I'm saying, right? And me, when I came here to England, this is hilarious. I didn't even go through customs. Like, I literally just scanned my passport at the airport over here and just walked into the country. So maybe there's some logic to how the United States does things, like as far as like protecting itself. But I will have to say that, like, my opinion on border security or how we handle immigrants, my opinion on that has changed drastically living outside of the United States, and we need to handle things differently, because especially for the people that are already in the United States. Because if we want illegal immigration to stop, we need to stop making it so fucking difficult to get into the country. Right? Yeah. Like, I don't know what standards they're running by, but they're almost impossible standards.
Well, I know there's influx from one to the other, but there's a lot of there's going to be more influx out of the country soon. Because
yeah, probably. I think Tom Hanks already left.
Yeah, I mean, people are leaving. Amber Heard left.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think we're missing anything with that one, though.
No, that was the point, right? But yeah, no, I bring that up only because, again, there's that ethical side of me, and that was the point. Truly, is whether we handle it right or wrong. Ethically, they're human beings just like us, and that's one of the things that we fail to answer. Mm-hmm. So we have to answer to that. We have to figure out how to do things better.
I agree.
And I get why people want to argue and fight so much, and you got to fight for what you believe in. I'm also not going to hang out with people who wish me dead, but I'm not going to assume that just somebody is a certain association that they want me dead. Like the 4-letter N-word. you know, there's a lot of discussion of, people that you can't tolerate somebody like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, agree. You don't tolerate what they believe in or what they stand for. You speak your mind, but you still have to be able to have a conversation with somebody. Because if there's no conversation, there will never be a change in it.
Mm-hmm.
It just isn't going to happen. So
Yeah, I mean, both sides
we're
need to
going to separate
eventually.
so much more. Yeah.
I mean, the extreme side of it. I mean, like the extreme right, like the far right and the far left. I think both. If any of you are listening to consider yourself far left or far right, y'all need to chill the fuck out.
They're the
Like
exact same people.
exactly. Like you're the exact same thing. Like, and I do stand by my statement. A part of my statement that I wrote in absolute enragement on Facebook. We are given the illusion of choice through duality. Red, blue, good, evil, Coke, Pepsi. We're given an illusion of choice through duality. That is not choice. Those are blinders. So you can't see any of the other options that exist. That's what those are. Those are blinders that you would put on a fucking horse. So I really want to see an independent win. Like just once. I don't think there's ever been an independent president. I honestly, once I want to see an independent win. Like I really do. Like nobody votes for independence. The thing is like who's talking about the independent ticket? Nobody.
Nobody ever talks about any of them.
And there's usually decent options on that side of things. For the most part. I mean, some of them are dicks, but
Yeah.
Like, I honestly think that like that's something we need to look at more. Anyway, we are way over time. We've been on for almost 2 hours now. But this has been a great show. Definitely cracked in hard on ethics. So that's great. Anywho, that is going to be it for tonight. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow for Satan and Coffee. Okay. And I will start tomorrow with my shadow read based off of continuing kind of like what Mystic kind of left like on his weekly energetic read this evening. And that'll be it. And Dyra apologizes for not being on the show tonight. She's just not feeling well. So
let the woman rest, please.
Yeah. She needs a rest. So but yeah, on that note, as always, everyone, hail thy fucking self.